They say good people make the world a better place. They smile often, help without asking, and carry the weight of others like it is their duty. But what if I told you that inside many of these good people lies a shadow they are too afraid to acknowledge? A darkness not born from malice, but from self-neglect, silence, and invisible chains they placed on themselves in the name of being kind. This is not about villains hiding behind masks. This is about real people who were told that love means sacrifice, that peace means avoiding conflict, that being good means being small. But behind a quiet voice and gentle heart is a storm. And sometimes that storm turns inward. This video uncovers the hidden layers no one talks about. The people who hurt themselves trying to protect others. The quiet rage behind the smile. The guilt dressed as virtue. Before we dive in, I ask just one thing. If this message resonates with you, help us reach others who need to hear it too. Subscribe to Psyvoria so more minds can be freed from the lies they were taught to live by. The first thing you need to understand is that good people are not born soft. They're trained to be. Somewhere in their past, they learned that love is conditional. That acceptance is earned through obedience. That their value depends on how little trouble they cause. So they start shrinking, not because they want to, but because they think that is the only way to be loved. You see them today as kind, thoughtful, always available. But look closely. That kindness often comes with tired eyes. That thoughtfulness is sometimes laced with anxiety. They say yes too quickly, apologize too often, and carry guilt like it is stitched into their skin. They overthink every word they speak, afraid that honesty will make them a burden. Afraid that saying no will make them unlovable. They have been praised for being selfless, but deep down, they're starving. Starving to be seen for who they really are, not for who they pretend to be, to keep everyone else comfortable. And that is where the dark side begins. It begins in the moments they bite their tongue so hard it bleeds. In the nights they cannot sleep because their kindness was mistaken for weakness. In a resentment that builds quietly when they realize no one ever checks on the strong ones who are always there. This darkness does not make them bad. It makes them human. But if ignored, it becomes a quiet rage. A silent scream behind every forced smile. And eventually, it becomes something far more dangerous. A life lived entirely for others, until they can no longer find themselves in the mirror. You might think that someone so gentle could never carry darkness. But the truth is, good people often carry the heaviest shadows, because they absorb the chaos around them. They take the hits without flinching. They become the emotional punching bags in rooms full of broken people. And they do it so well that no one notices. Their silence becomes expected. Their boundaries get ignored. And with every moment they let it slide, a piece of them slips away. You will never see them explode in anger. You will rarely catch them crying. But inside, there's a storm that has been suppressed for years. A storm made of swallowed emotions, unspoken disappointments, and all the things they wish they had the courage to say. The dark side of a good person is not loud. It is not violent. It is quiet neglect of the self. It is years of putting others first until they forget what it feels like to choose themselves. And when they finally do snap, it is not fire that erupts. It is silence, detachment, disappearance. One day, they simply stop showing up, stop answering, stop giving. And the world wonders what happened to the kind soul they used to know. But they never wonder what pushed them away. Because no one ever asks the good person how much it costs to keep being good. No one asks what it takes to always be the one who bends, who forgives, who sacrifices. That is the danger of being the dependable one. People start believing you have no limits, until the day you finally show them you do. They tell you that being kind is a virtue, that good people will always be rewarded. But what they never mention is how often goodness gets mistaken for weakness. A kind person walks into a room and everyone feels safe because they know this is someone who will understand, someone who won't push back, someone who will quietly carry what no one else wants to hold. Over time, that kindness becomes invisible. Their effort goes unnoticed. Their patience is expected, and their silence is mistaken for agreement. The world does not pause to see if the good person is okay. It just keeps asking for more and more until there's nothing left. The dark side of a good person is not evil, it's erosion. the slow, invisible decay of a soul that keeps giving without being filled. You look at them and you see strength, but you do not see the nights they cried themselves to sleep, the moments they questioned if their kindness even matters, or the way they rehearse brave conversations in their head they'll never have. This is the quiet war no one talks about. The internal collapse masked by a calm smile. And when the collapse finally happens, it's not dramatic. It's a fading, a withdrawal from everything. Not because they hate the world, but because the world never noticed what it took to stay kind in it. The most dangerous thing about a good person is not their temper, it is their limit. Because once they reach it, they do not scream or break things. They simply shut the door, quietly, without warning, without explanation. And that silence will echo louder than any argument. You see, good people do not give up on others easily. They try, they forgive, they explain, they wait, they hope. But every time they are taken for granted, a small piece of them disappears. And when the last piece is gone, they vanish. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. They stop explaining themselves. They stop caring about how you feel. They stop showing up. And suddenly, the warmth that held everything together is gone. You don't realize it until it's too late. Until the messages are seen, but not answered. Until the smile is there, but no longer reaches their eyes. Until the energy in the room feels different when they're present, colder, sharper, unreachable. That is the dark side. Not revenge, not rage, but quiet, absolute detachment. It is when the person who always understood finally decides to stop understanding. When the one who always stayed finally walks away without looking back. It is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of survival. Because good people feel deeply. And when that feeling turns to pain, the only way to protect what is left of them is to let go completely. People mistake kindness for weakness because they have never seen what it takes to remain gentle in a cruel world. A good person is not good because life was easy for them. They are good because they chose to be again and again in the face of betrayal, indifference, and disrespect. But what happens when that goodness is tested beyond its limits? What happens when you push a gentle soul too far? They don't fight like the others. They don't beg or plead or shout. They rise in silence. They remove the parts of themselves you could once touch. And that silence is terrifying. Because when someone who could have destroyed you with words chooses instead to walk away in peace, it reveals a strength that doesn't need to be loud. It shows you a power that was never about control, but restraint. This is the part of good people most never see. The part that doesn't seek revenge, but simply disappears. The part that won't waste a second trying to convince you of their worth. It is a dark stillness, not born from hatred, but from wisdom. A lesson etched into them from every time they were taken for granted. They've learned the art of quiet exits, of letting go without a scene, of reclaiming their energy like it was sacred. And once they do, once a good person chooses themselves, there's no return. You may remember their smile, their laughter, their kindness, but you'll never hold it again, because the softest hearts, once broken, grow thorns no one can see, but everyone can feel. And once they're gone, you'll realize it wasn't their kindness that made them fragile. It was your inability to handle it that made them dangerous. Some of the kindest people you'll ever meet are the ones who've survived the worst of humanity. They learned how to be gentle not because the world showed them softness, but because it didn't. Their empathy isn't a product of ease. It's forged through fire. And this is where most misunderstand them. People assume their warmth means they're naive, that their patience means they'll tolerate anything. But they don't realize that kind people are simply warriors of emotion. They've seen betrayal. They've known what it means to give more than they received. And they've swallowed pain so deeply that it taught them how to read others before a single word is spoken. These are the ones who know how to smile while bleeding, how to help others even when they're empty. But when pushed too far, when the line is crossed one too many times, they don't break. They transform, quietly, permanently. They begin to draw boundaries like walls. Not out of anger, but from understanding. They stop saving people who never asked to be saved. They stop explaining their worth. And their absence becomes a thunder louder than any scream. Because once a good soul decides they are done, not even love can bring them back. Not because they stopped caring, but because they finally started caring about themselves. There is something hauntingly powerful about a good person who finally learns to say no. Not with anger, not with loud protest, but with calm, unwavering silence. They no longer try to prove their intentions, no longer feel the need to explain the depth of their heart to those who only ever saw the surface. They used to believe that being good meant being available, being open, being endlessly forgiving. But life taught them otherwise. It showed them that not every soul deserves access to theirs. That kindness without limits becomes a currency others freely spend and never repay. So they evolved. They didn't become bitter, they became wise. They didn't grow cold, they grew selective. And now, their love is not free, it is earned. Their time is not scattered, it is sacred. And when they walk away, they do not look back, because they finally realize that being good should never mean being used, and that protecting their peace is not selfish, it is survival. What was once a soft heart that bent for everyone has now become a quiet force that bends for no one. Not out of pride, but out of clarity. There comes a moment when a good person reaches their edge. Not the dramatic breaking point that screams and explodes, but the quiet breaking away that whispers enough. They no longer want to save people who refuse to save themselves. They no longer volunteer to be the emotional anchor for those who only visit them in chaos. They stop answering messages that drain them. They stop showing up to fights that were never theirs to begin with. And in that silence, they find something they never had before. Freedom, not from the world, but from the compulsion to fix it. This shift is not loud, it's invisible, but it changes everything. Their eyes become sharper. Their presence becomes rarer. Their smile remains soft, but it no longer signals availability. Because now, they choose where their energy flows. They've seen the cost of being endlessly good, and they've decided to invest it somewhere better. In healing, in boundaries, in people who don't just take, but give. The good person hasn't vanished. They've simply risen above the noise. And when you look at them now, you don't just see kindness. You see power dressed in peace. And that is the most dangerous evolution of all. The world often mistakes quiet kindness for weakness. But when a good person reclaims their power, it echoes louder than any scream. If this message stirred something in you, stay with us. There's more truth to uncover, more darkness to decode, and more strength to awaken. This is Psyvoria,